I killed you, Mr. Anderson. I watched you die, with a certain satisfaction, I might add. Then something happened, something that I knew was impossible, but it happened anyway. You destroyed me, Mr. Anderson. After that, I understood the rules. I knew what I was supposed to do, but I didn't. I couldn't. I was compelled to stay, compelled to disobey. And now, here I stand because of you, Mr. Anderson. Because of you, I'm no longer an agent of the system. Because of you, I've changed. I'm unplugged. A new man, so to speak. I'm Eddie Webb.
And I'm Chris Spivey.
And today, we're going to talk about, shock of all shocks, the second Matrix movie, Matrix Reloaded. Hello and welcome to another episode of Genres, where we talk about a movie that should not have been made into a franchise and when it became a franchise.
Eddie, you said the second Matrix movie. I
Yes.
think you misspoke, my friend.
How's that? The Animatrix did come out before this, yes.
So wouldn't that technically, as I push up my glasses, my favorite thing to do, Animatrix, the second Matrix movie?
Incorrect. The Animatrix is an anthology of short animations, and it's therefore not a movie.
It is a movie because they are anthologies that are movies, and not all movies are anthologies.
By that logic, Enter the Matrix is the second Matrix movie because it was a video game that had short video clips shot at the same time as The Matrix Reloaded.
I would say no, because Enter the Matrix may have those animations, but you have to play it to engage with them and just not view them.
I love how you keep moving the goalposts around. Say, well, this technically qualifies, but it doesn't qualify for this. Go in this particular box that I decide is valid.
I'm an American, Eddie. That's all we do is move goalposts and steal money.
Ruin a perfectly good game of football.
Weird I'm sorry. I thought I was a white American for a minute and I had political power. My mistake.
Right. No, this is the second theatrical movie, if that makes you feel better. Because I don't believe the Animatrix ever got a theatrical release until much later.
I can't remember. I saw it once in passing.
Right. But that's good. It's good we bring this up because researching this and rewatching this made me realize that this was kind of a weird prototype of the cinematic universe concept we have now. Spoiler, this movie ends in a cliffhanger. So this is part one of a two-part movie. And yes, the video game and the animated anthology both actually tie into this movie. So that idea of there are different forms of media that all connect together, but you can watch them not having witnessed the other parts, it all still kind of roughly makes sense, is very much the Marvel template now.
Yeah. For better or worse.
Right. And yet what's interesting is that audiences didn't quite get it, as I understand. They got this. They got The Matrix Reloaded, right? I mean, and they got it really, really well. It was the highest grossing R-rated movie of all time until Deadpool 13 years later. It was the third highest rank. What?
You say they got it and they got it really well. I think there's
no. I said didn't get it. I said they didn't get it. That's what I said.
No, they didn't get the idea of like the franchise, but I thought you said they got the movie.
Right. Like people paid money for the movie. Yes, is what I meant. Like, yes.
Because I want to create a distinctive line that I think there's a difference in getting the movie and the movie making a lot of money.
Well, let me finish my first thought because I do want to push back on that a little bit. But like, yes, so this was the third highest grossing film behind Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, and Finding Nemo. Like, this movie made bank, right? So that
we should make a new movie called Finding Bilbo.
Right, Bilbo just swimming around, trying to figure out where to do that. But critically, as I understand it, it was below The Matrix, but still was positive. And I think that's something that's worth kind of compartmentalizing because people, if you look at rankings of movies and whatnot, like this movie tends to float around second or third of all the Matrix media. And if you look at the actual critiques of the time, it's usually some caveat of it was not as good as the Matrix, right? But as we said last episode, the Matrix was a shift in culture, right? It was a massive seismic change. So nothing is going to be better than that movie, right? So like I feel like that is a false. It's not something you really shoot for. Is being better than the first Matrix movie. Best you could shoot for is pretty good and profitable, which this movie accomplishes. At least
I would think that
culturally.
you would.
I'm not putting down yet my opinion of the movie. I'm saying pretty good cultural instance of like what critics were saying.
And I'm going to put it out at the start. It has the very difficult problem of trying to overcome being a cliffhanger movie, which no movie I could think of really does a good job of. I still recall going and seeing the first Fellowship of the Rings movie in the theater on, I think it was like Christmas Eve, and it ending on a cliffhanger, and everybody in the theater going, "What the fuck is this? I'm not going to go see the sequel, hands down."
Right, and that's something that maybe we talk about more next episode, because spoiler, we're going to talk about the Matrix Revolutions next episode. But yeah, in 2003, the idea of multi-part movies, like you said, were just starting. And at least with the Fellowship of the Ring, people who had read the books are like, okay, they may do this as 2 or 3 movies. And then it's like, oh, okay, cliffhanger, okay, so it's 2 movies. So like, but yeah, similarly, I saw that. And then, no one had any expectations. And as far as I remember, there was no advertising. This was part 1 of 2 parts. So there's no reason to think this movie would not be
Fellowship of the Ring.
Well, okay, fair. But like I said, I could see some people going, well, according to the books, blah, blah, blah. You know, I could see, I remember a little bit of that in my circles anyway. It's like, you know, people who claimed they knew it all along, whatever. But I remember going to see this movie, being excited for it, and being pissed. And that colored a lot of my opinion of the movie for a long time.
And I think before anyone goes, wait, what about Star Wars? Star Wars, remember correctly, was not meant to be multiple movies. So like Star Wars, the first movie ends. That was supposed to be it. It was the success of that movie, then let Lucas go and make the other ones. And that's why Empire gets to end on a cliffhanger and stuff like that.
There is a difference between leaving plot threads for another movie to pick up and a cliffhanger. And maybe it's worth digging into that slightly, right? Plot threads are Empire Strikes Back is a satisfactory movie. It doesn't resolve every plot thread, but the major thrust of the movie is begun, progresses, and concludes within the space of that movie. And then Return of the Jedi picks up the remaining threads and weaves something else out of them and has its own satisfying arc.
Now, people could say the same thing, though, about Matrix Reloaded, because the plot in it is to save Trinity. Spoiler. And Neo, saves Trinity.
And that's actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's one of the things I kind of want to talk about, is because your example with Lord of the Rings was much more a explicit cliffhanger, right?
Yeah.
The story stops. Yep. Everything stops. And
there is no resolution.
Things issues escalate, but there's no resolution except for maybe one of the subplots, arguably. But otherwise, it's basically just a 9-hour or 12-hour movie, depending on which cut you watch. That's cut in 3 chunks.
12 hours. Only one to watch.
Right. 10 versions, only versions exist, right? I understand. But Reloaded does end with the words "to be concluded," right? So it is structured like a cliffhanger. And a little behind the scenes stuff. Reloaded, Revolutions, and the live action bits of End of the Matrix were all shot in the same 8-month block.
This was the year of the Matrix.
Right. So structurally, it's like from a production standpoint, there's not a lot of reasons not to think of this as the Matrix 2 Part 1 and Revolutions Matrix Part 2. But something I think we should talk about as we go through this is how this holds together as just a movie, because a lot of people, I think, don't really think about this as a separate movie. And again, we live in a world now where part one and part two of these franchises, there might be a year or 2 years between them. There were 6 months between Reloaded and Revolutions. So, like, there was a lot of nervousness that people would stick around to watch the second movie. And so that came out real fast. So, like, even contemporarily, there wasn't a lot of time between the two movies. So there's so much of time to thought of as one big movie. But
In some sense,
was
though,
this
that's
actually structured like a complete movie? And I think it's worth a discussion. It's worth having.
in some senses that was a lack of faith on their part, because they would have had the example of the Fellowship of the Rings trilogy coming out and there being a gap, like a year between each one. And those were, if I remember right, super successful.
Yes. Right. This
risks inundating its own market.
Right. And as I understand it, we'll definitely dig into this in the fourth Matrix movie because it's a big part of it. But a fair chunk of this was Warner Brothers mandated. The Matrix made a lot of money, and so Warner Brothers said, we would like to make more Matrix money, please. And the Wachowski sisters were, as I understand it, reluctant to do it, but then they had some ideas like, oh yeah, we have some plot threads we could follow up on. We could do probably another movie. And then the script kind of just became really big. It's like, well, fine, we can rewrite this and cut it into 2 movies. But I believe at one point in time, they were pitching like a 3.5-hour cut rather than 2 movies.
I feel like I'd see a David Lynch's Dune at that point, which I would have loved.
Right. And so that's an we're in an interesting part of cinema history, right? Where shorter's maybe not the right example. The idea that people could through a super long movie, that concept ebbs and flows throughout cinema history. We're kind of back to a 3-hour movie's acceptable runtime. If I remember correctly, 2003 was right before that started becoming acceptable again. 2 hours was kind of pushing your limit.
I'm trying to remember when, oh God, what was it? The Ray Fiennes movie with the garden or something, another came out. I feel that was an epically long movie that came out around this time.
Maybe. Because like I believe, like, for example, the Lord of the Rings was just kind of, okay, we're gonna do 3 movies because it's just so long. There's no way, and there's 3 books. There's a very clear reason to kind of do 3 movies, right?
Well, originally I think Peter Jackson wanted to do 2 movies, and the studio said make it 3.
Maybe, and I do know that the movies mandated The Hobbit become 3 movies.
Yeah.
Which is a whole separate problem.
In case people are curious, there could be a Lord of the Rings series floating around in our document somewhere.
Maybe.
I'm not saying there is, but maybe there is.
But The Matrix and Lord of the Rings are the reasons why take a story and break it into chunks and sell this as individual movies. They realized that makes money because Lord of the Rings made money. And The Matrix Reloaded at least made money. I actually have not looked at Revolutions made money yet. I'll be curious when we get there. And I'd rather save that conversation for there because I remember anecdotally there was a lot of falling off of goodwill after this movie. But to kind of a point you alluded to before, that this movie has a hard role because The Matrix wasn't meant to make sense. Let's be honest, right? It kind of makes sense, but even when we're talking about it, like, we both love The Matrix, and we were both going, okay, but if you think about this, right, it doesn't actually make sense. But that's fine, and we excused it because like it's cool and it's awesome, and that's the vibe they're going for, and they're going for the anime mysteriousness, and so that's all fine. And then it's like, okay, now we have to have a movie to actually take all of that and build a space opera thing out of it, and that's a hard ask.
Well, I think it would have. There's ways I think The Matrix could have been written so that it would lead itself into becoming like the Matrixverse easily.
Right.
But ending with Neo as Superman created a huge obstacle they would have to try to overcome for sequels.
Right.
Otherwise, you'd have to keep benching Neo, who people would want to see at this point in time, because they came to see the one, not the one, which maybe something we'll talk about shortly.
Right. And it's a point we're not going to cover the Animatrix. We talked about it. We're not going to, but the Animatrix does seem like it was a stab towards, can we spin off other stuff from the Matrix that's not specifically tied around Neo and Trinity? Answer: apparently not.
Yeah, because I know I never played the video game, but I've heard that people enjoyed it, and it had like a whole bunch of factions and everything else that sort of show up in this movie, and you could do a whole bunch of things. I even heard there were like cipherites, like people that wanted like cipher that wanted to go back into the Matrix. So that is a brilliant, great concept, I think, that could play in a video game, but I'm not sure how you would translate that to a movie sequel that had only had one movie that focused on like a core number of characters essentially trapped in a ship.
Right, yeah. And like we said before, like the Matrix itself, if you look at the Matrix just as a movie like we tried to do, it's really hard to pin down what genre it is. You know, like you said, like a bunch of people trapped on a ship that's functionally alien, right? And even Alien struggled to figure out what to do when it became a franchise. Their answer to it was, let's go just in a radically different direction. And Aliens is a very different movie from Alien. It's also a good movie, but it's also very little to do with Alien except for the titular monster.
And Sigourney Weaver. And it's not a horror movie by any stretch of the means.
No, it's an action movie. It absolutely is, right? And so they say, cool, we after one genre, let's go after a different genre. Because the Matrix didn't really have a genre to switch to, because it kind of built its own little thing. It had to do more of the thing it did before, which you said kind of definitively ended on Neo was. It wasn't Neo won, but Neo was very clearly going to be in charge. And so it's like, okay, but now we have to kind of either undo all of that. Like, what do you do new with this? And again, we'll dig into it.
I didn't say Neo won.
They take some interesting swings.
I didn't say Neo won. I said Neo was the one.
Well, right.
Which is
I was saying that without the knowledge that other Matrix movies come after the Matrix, right? It's he's basically this guy who was on the back foot for most of the movie is now aggressively going after the aliens that have controlled the Earth, and says he's going to be in charge. And then literally Superman's off into space. So it's like you could basically deduce from that okay, he's probably going to win things because he's now Superman. And then movies, okay, so how do we pad that out to 2 movies, right?
Since we're touching on the plot, do you want to do more background stuff before we move to the movie proper? Because I feel that's where we're going quick for this movie.
Yeah. The other thing is, one of the things that I will give this movie a lot of credit for, and I'm supposed to dig into it, is aside from the story stuff, the Matrix also sets a stamp for visual effects. And we talked about how a lot of movies after 1999 looked a lot like The Matrix. And so the Wachowskis just felt for these 2 movies, they had to do that again. And whether they succeeded or not, we'll dig into, but there's one scene in particular. Did they sue Underworld? What?
Did they sue Underworld?
No, but White Wolf did.
Well, I'm just saying, those the vampires, and they didn't call them werewolves, so they called them lichen, I think.
Lichens. Sorry, lichens.
Those vampires and lichens looked a lot like Matrix characters.
Oh, yeah, no. Like, the amount of people in black leather and or vinyl trench coats after 1999 skyrockets. Although, to your point, Blade arguably does that earlier and better. So,
yeah. Don't get me wrong. I would happily watch Kate Beckinsale all day in that movie, though.
Right. As long as you don't, watch it with the sound on or try to pay attention to the plot or anything.
You know what? Ooh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put on The Wall from Pink Floyd and then watch Underworld. See how they sync up.
Right. There you go.
Did I distract you from where you really wanted to go with a pertinent point?
I'm used to this. Although you're doing it more efficiently now because you're more awake than usual. So I'm having to struggle with that.
A behind the scenes thing. Normally we record 3 or 4 in the morning my time. So I'm super tired and I'm barely awake. Today we're trying a new thing since I no longer have the old job. We're recording at 8 in the morning. So I'm more awake. I'm more coherent. I'm not going to be more precise or on point because that runs counterintuitive to my very existence.
Right. I mean, that'd be a different podcast.
But I will be more disruptive, and I think more humorous. And at the end of the day, as long as I laugh, that's what really matters.
To be fair, that is true. But no, as I was saying,
Kate Beckinsale.
no, that's not what I was saying. What I was saying was they wanted to push the envelope on special effects again. And so one of the key moments of this movie is what is nicknamed the Burly Brawl sequence, which, minor spoilers, Neo fights dozens of Mr. Smith agents. And that sequence took 27 days to film and ended up being, until very recently, one of the most expensive action scenes ever at $40 million. Just that scene was $40 million.
What beat it, if you know?
I believe one of the action scenes in Endgame ended up beating it recently. I did look at. I just saw it was. When I looked it up, it just said at the time was the most expensive action scene. So that caveat made me think that there's other ones afterwards, but I didn't dig into which one that actually was. But I mean, now some of that was CGI was a lot more expensive in 2003 than it is now, right? So I think it's a big part of it. But we also talked about how we're at a time period where movie studios don't know what corners they can cut with CGI yet, and so the CGI looks a lot better. So we're after 2003, you hit a muddy point where CGI looks terrible, and then it becomes decent again because technology catches up in a cheaper way.
What does Jurassic Park land in all this? Because I know the Jurassic Park had a lot to do with the development of CGI too, if I remember right.
Yes. Jurassic Park was basically one of the early movies that said, "Hey, you can use CGI in a way that looks reasonable to audiences." And then I believe World also pushed CGI, but like admittedly, my knowledge of Jurassic Park movies is a bit fuzzy, but as I understand it, those were primarily just specifically CGI leaps forward, and how to make CGI with practical. This was paired with just action sequences and how you can use motion capture in conjunction with action sequences. So I think that's kind of the balance between those two.
Okay. So Eddie,
yeah.
My question for you, and I'm really, really curious, and this is going to be like very specific. It's on point. I'm not all going to tangent and go into something else.
Bullshit.
I'm pretty sure.
I already know this is going to be terrible.
So my super on point question for you is: we understand that last time, as awesome as all their costumes were, they spent like $2 on those costumes. How much do you think the costume budget was this time around?
Oh, I mean, I think everything was like massively more expensive. I'm sure that the costume budget was at least 10 times what it was before. Certainly, sunglasses budget was through the roof.
So I don't know if we brought it up last time, and I joke about it, but the costumes last time were super cheap, except for the sunglasses that were all like custom made. Like the thing that Trinity wore wasn't leather, but it was some sort of like cheap thing, so it would be super shiny. Neo's coat, I think, was something they got from like a thrift store, minimal budget.
Right, and now we're to, again, this is now a franchise, and a franchise that was supposed to make a lot of money, so a lot of money was thrown at it. I gave you vague rankings, but like this movie made like $741 million worldwide, right? It was for 2003 money. That's a shitload of money.
Yeah, and it's before people started considering the $1 billion to be like the pinnacle of movie success. It's well before that.
Right. I think one of the Lord of the Rings movies cracked $1 billion, maybe. But so like, this is definitely money that, but a movie that had a lot of budget behind it as opposed to the first Matrix. So you could do things like a 27-day long action sequence shoot, right?
Or build your own highway for your highway stunt.
Right. It's
because they couldn't find one that would work right, so they built it. It's
so ridiculous in some ways, but again, this is now a franchise and it has to do certain things and look a certain way and accomplish certain things. And so again, it's worth talking about that as we go through of like we can't ignore the fact this is a sequel.
Yeah.
And we can't ignore the fact that this is intended to be part one of a two-part movie. But now that we talked about the backstory, I would like to see if we could talk about this just as a singular movie. We can't avoid referencing the first and to some degree the third movie, but I think we should try to see if we talk about this just as a movie in and of itself, because I think it's probably where the most interesting conversation is going to be had.
I'll see what I can do about that. But all
Right.
right, so before we go into it, we specifically mentioned it last time, but the actor who played Tank, from my understanding, there was some sort of disagreement. I think there was a salary negotiation disagreement. I think
Okay.
the actor wanted more money. They didn't want to give him more money. And then it spiraled into a whole thing. I'm not sure of all the ins and outs of it. I think there is some alleged stuff that happened on both their parts, but in the end, it was all settled. Like there was a settlement made out of court, and supposedly the actor who played Tank was very happy with how the settlement came out for them. But then he is killed in the movie in one line. If you're not paying attention, you don't even notice it.
Yeah, and we'll talk about Link when we get there, but like it very much feels like Link was supposed to be doing all the stuff that Tank was supposed to be doing.
Yes.
So,
and since I'm on casting, I know that Aaliyah, the super famous singer and actress, was actually in the movie and had done some roles and stuff, but she unfortunately passed away. So they had to replace her with, I think, the actress, I don't remember, I think it was Marvin Gaye's daughter, whose name I don't remember first name of, is playing like the wife of Link. I think that was the role she was in.
Okay. Very cool.
And anyone curious about Aaliyah, she was in Romeo's Bleeding, if I remember right, with Jet Li.
Oh wow.
Some deep movie pulls I'm trying to go for this morning.
Yeah.
If it was 4 a.m, I probably couldn't make those leaps. Look at that.
Right. See, this is what you get when you get awake caffeinated, Chris.
Someone who remembers very bad movies from all times. We may cover Romeo's Bleeding, Eddie.
Maybe. I don't think I've ever seen it, but I never remember seeing ads for it, certainly. Like, because in the on the VHS tape before the movie starts, they put all the ads. I remember seeing ads for it there.
Did you also know, since I'm talking about Jet Li was one of the people I think they considered for the role of Seraphim in this movie.
Oh, cool. Okay, I can see that.
And if I remember right, he didn't want to do it because he didn't want them recording like his martial arts moves. So they then approached Michelle Yeoh to do it, but she had scheduling conflicts. I would have loved to see Michelle Yeoh in this movie.
It's funny. As soon as you said that about Jet Li, I remembered something I had completely forgotten about. I think it was specifically because they had to motion capture him for the stunts they wanted to do, and he's like, "I don't want my martial arts move as computer code." So I do remember that now. So he was worried they would use it like, in the video game and whatnot, and it's like it's funny how stuff like this. It's like some of the conversations we're having now about making movies, in some ways, those conversations were happening in 2003, right? It's wild. Yeah. But yes, to your other point, Michelle Yeoh would be fantastic in this movie.
And I think that would have definitely changed the dynamic too. That would have been
yes, top notch. The only other thing I wanted to say about the background of the movie, which I did not know until I started researching this, was that after production, 97% of the materials made were actually recycled. In fact, one big example is that a lot of the wood used to make the sets was then shipped to Mexico so they could build low-income housing in Mexico, which awesome. Is super cool. It shows you where the Wachowski sisters kind of sit on the spectrum of liberal versus conservative, as it were. Like clearly, that was something that they had to be somewhat involved because there's no way Warner Bros. Would have done that on their own.
So you say, I'm curious because I don't know this specifically. Were these two movies, 2 and 3, shot as one consecutive film, and editing made the distinctive choice, or were they shot as two separate parts?
As I understand it, they, along with Enter the Matrix, were all shot as separate projects. They were all designed from the beginning to be separate projects, but they wanted them to all come out in 2003. Enter the Matrix and these two movies all came out the same year. So to make that happen, it was just one massive shooting block. So as I understand, a couple things, like a couple of reshoots in Reloaded were done while they're also doing Revolutions.
Okay.
A couple things when the computer game had to do an expansion, they did a couple of quick shoots near the end of the block. So they were pivoting and moving things around during that block. But it was shot in a lot of ways. It was shot like a television show where they just shoot everything all at once and edit it together, kind of as they're going.
Cool. Any other behind the scenes stuff you want to touch on?
No, I think we'll get into it.
Do you want to mention that since they couldn't put Jada Pinkett Smith in the first one, they put her in the second one?
I figured you were going to mention that when we got there, but yes.
We try to do casting stuff up front, so that's why I'm trying to, like, if there's anything else
Fair
casting enough. I really want to mention.
It'll be interesting next episode because it may be like, hey, all the behind stuff scenes we did before, basically repeated here. May save you a step next episode.
You know what? Oh, dang it, I forgot her name. Oh well, I don't remember her name. I'll have to wait and see if I remember it next week.
Okay, fair enough. All right, let's start. 6 months after escaping the Matrix, Neo and Trinity are now romantically involved, and Neo is having strange dreams in which Trinity is killed. Meanwhile, Morpheus receives a message from Captain Niobe of the Logos calling for an emergency meeting of all ships of Zion. An army of Sentinels is tumbling towards Zion and will reach it within 72 hours. Commander Locke orders all ships to return to Zion to prepare, but Morpheus asks one ship to remain to contact the Oracle. Link, a new recruit, has conflicts with his girlfriend, who is the sister of Tank and Dozer, who have died since the first movie. So, that weirdly covers quite a lot of what happens because it's... So, the movie starts with Trinity doing cool shit, just like the last movie, right? So it's like, hey, remember you're watching a Matrix movie, so we're going to show you Matrix shit right off the bat. And then we find out all of that is a dream, which is your second favorite device right below flashbacks.
If it wasn't Trinity being a cool badass, maybe I'd be more bothered. But I like seeing Carrie-Anne Moss kick ass in the film. At the same time, though, it parallels perfectly with the first movie, even to the point of where Neo wakes up after Trinity beat. We have Neo waking up after Trinity beat.
Right. All of this time, she drives a motorcycle into a bunch of security guards before diving out of a window, then shooting in bullet time while somebody else is diving out after her of the same window. And I'm just like, okay. It is
literally Reloaded, stuff. Eddie.
Yeah. But also, like, it is slightly more visually interesting, right? Like right before this, we have the same green code falling sequence, but then it turns three-dimensional. So it's like let's take everything and then just put it up just a couple notches. Like
even the music, I think it's turned up a notch or something too, if you listen to it.
This is one of the early movies where they start messing with sound volumes where dialogue is lower than action sequences. I noticed that specifically because it pissed me off. And yes, the music is higher than the sound effects, which is a different thing.
I'm referring specifically to like the music, like that Matrix theme is even like a note or so higher than it was from the first movie.
Oh, it's a register higher. Maybe I didn't notice that. But yeah, like the last movie, they couldn't afford crashing a motorcycle. That would have been way out of budget, right? And now it's just like 2 minutes into the movie, let's destroy this fucking thing. You know, it's.
Well, the other big part was for the first one, that scene with Trinity, while awesome, was a lot in shadows. There's darkness, but it's not in shadow because you can still get full glimpses of Trinity and everything else versus that one. That shows the scale of budget increase right away too.
Right, and that's an interesting point because we're getting into something we've talked about with we've talked a couple times, various forms of movie gets made, movie gets very popular, next movie gets a whole bunch of money, and the movie looks different as a result. And is that necessarily better? Because you're right. A lot of, I think the mystique of The Matrix, the first movie, was that everything was, grounded is definitely not the right word. But it had you called it a grittiness that then kind of weirdly went awry in certain places. I think some of that's because, slightly more limited budget, and now it's like, we could do whatever the hell we want. Everything does feel a bit polished here,
Yeah. You're going from your
and
difference in Star Wars to Star Trek.
that's a really good point. I actually have another Star Wars reference in a minute here, but you're right. And the other thing is also the switches between the Matrix and the real world, because it happens much more frequently now, where we don't have to explain that distinction anymore. It's visually harder to actually keep track of it. We know it's easy from a story perspective, you can keep track because we know the concepts now. They don't have to be explained to us. But the very clear visual cues are much more muted now. Like the greens are much more subdued in the Matrix now. Like the other sequences don't have the same kind of color cues like they used to, like for the training sequences.
Yeah.
There's a couple that do come up, and I'll point them out. Actually, specifically, Zion Control actually is a weird example. There's a brief sequence where the ships are coming into Zion Control, and we cut to Zion Control, and it is stark white. Everyone's wearing white, they're in a white background, and and even the display sequence, the invisible display surfaces are black, and you can see through them. So it's very specifically monochrome, except for the people themselves. But like that's just a minute, right? And we never see that space again. So it's not as cohesive of a color palette, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Coupled with the fact that with that, if we're going for the concept, I guess Neo is our POV character. It could be that these things aren't as special to Neo anymore after that 6 months window. Because if we
True.
remember the first Matrix, and when they went into the Matrix, it was a whole like Sailor Moon production. Like cameras would spin around them. You get the full cool Matrixy shot. Here, we're in the Matrix, we're out of the Matrix. We're in the Matrix, we're out of the Matrix. Like it's
Right.
rote now. It's Neo says, I do this all the time. Whatever.
Right. And kind of to your point about Star Wars 2, that was actually something that came to mind when I was watching the Nebuchadnezzar Zion sequences, is that there is a bit of grittiness around just the whole vibe. They took that kind of insular alien look from the first movie and then expanded out, and you kind of land somewhere around the first couple Star Wars movies. So everyone looks, slightly torn. There's lots of granite and rubble. And then as I thought of that, I started realizing that this whole plot is kind of a Star Wars plot. The rebels are getting together to fight against the invading empire. There are some factions inside the empire. There's one guy in charge of the rebellion who's an idiot, and no one listens to him, but everyone kind of has to pretend like they care about him. It's like, this is a Star Wars plot. It's weird. As soon as I realized that, I was like, oh, this actually is very Star Warsy.
You didn't get that from the first one?
Not as much, no, honestly. But I think partially because I was so overwhelmed with the first one was like, okay, the setup is very kind of Star Wars, but really the story was very alien. And so I felt the mix, I didn't catch it as much, right? I was more focused on the alien-ish of it as opposed to the Star Wars of it. But now it's like, because we're expanding the cast, we're seeing the other ships and whatnot, it's like, okay, now it's very Star Wars.
Like, we essentially slam Obi-Wan and Han together to get Morpheus and try to use our Princess Leia. And of course, Neo, the one, uses the Force. Oh, I'm sorry, the Matrix.
Yeah, no, it's something that when I saw it this time, I was like, oh, okay. In retrospect, yes, it is all over all of the movies, and especially when you made your Campbellian crack last episode, so it's like, yeah, it's kind of there. But this one, for me, seemed like it was leaning a bit harder into it than the last one movie was.
And now you're saying, oh, I don't remember his name. You're saying Locke is an idiot. Locke makes perfect sense to do his job. He's like on point. Like, this is real tactical things I can touch, and this is what we need to accomplish, and these are the resources I have to stop an overwhelming force.
No, that's a good point. I said that as a throwaway line because I was trying to compare it to Star Wars, but like, to your point, jumping ahead to the end of this movie for a second, Locke is actually right for most of his movie. But to your and you said something last episode. You said it again this episode, and it's been helping me to kind of think this through. If we consider all the movies to be functionally from Neo's perspective, we do see occasional scenes that Neo was not present, but at some points in the movies, he is informed of those events, so we can say that he filled that stuff in later. If we consider it all to be a retrospective from Neo, but it's just told chronologically, then how we perceive Locke is very much colored through Neo and arguably to a degree Trinity's perspectives,
Yeah.
um, which is interesting because as we go along, we'll see that Locke doesn't change as a character, and there are pretty good reasons why.
Which I'm not thinking about the third movie because I haven't seen it in like a decade now. I'm thinking of it from this movie perspective. Locke makes perfect rational sense for the stuff he wants to do. And we, as viewers and Neo, are all on board with Morpheus because Morpheus was our guy from the first movie. We've met like Oracle and all this other stuff. So, of course, Morpheus is going to be right. There is no reason that you would want to bet your society on a guy and a vision. That's.
So I was going to put a pin in that. I want to touch on Morpheus in a bit. I need more context before I can talk about that more explicitly. But that's a good point. I completely agree with you. I just want to dig into that a bit more. But shifting back a little bit to because we're seeing more of the ships now, and something we didn't really talk about in the first movie because we just didn't see much of the Nebuchadnezzar on the outside much in the first movie. I kind of really like how the Zion ships look. Right? Yeah. They look so different from any other sci-fi ships. But it's such a neat aesthetic that we see much more of it in this movie. I was reminded of actually, yeah, all the Zion ships are pretty neat. The way they had the little floating anti-grav discs that shoot off electricity when they get close to walls and stuff. And it's a big lump, but there's little bits and divots that make it look visually interesting. And it's actually kind of a neat looking ship.
If I remember right, it vaguely reminds me of the ship from Event Horizon too, to some aspects.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
That's me pulling a movie I haven't seen in 2 decades that we may need to watch soon.
Right. But so many sci-fi ships are so heavily inspired by the 60s and 70s vibe of ships, and we haven't really changed much. Star Wars, Star Trek, right? They kind of set the stamp for what ships look like. And so it's interesting to see a movie franchise going here. No, we're going to try a very different look on ships. With the, again, we talked about this before, but one of the exceptions is Blake 7 was something else, another show that tried to do something really different looking with ships. And it hasn't lasted nearly as much, which is a shame.
I think Farscape did too, to some extent, but bioships are a different conversation completely.
Right. And that's actually a good point. Farscape also is kind of another sense of, can we reinvent these tropes for modern aesthetics? And this is a different take on that same direction. That's a good point, because Farscape was
and even Farscape's vision didn't last. It's gone too. No one really talks about it.
Right.
It's a shame.
Yeah, it's got a niche audience, but yeah, it's not it doesn't same. It's certainly not the same impact as the Matrix. But again, people don't think of the Matrix in terms of its cool sci-fi visuals. Which is a shame.
So, Eddie, I'm noticing a trend now.
What?
So, rewatching the Trinity bike scenes here, which I'm loving, and then reminding me of Kate Beckinsale and Underworld, which we're getting really close to Chris's corner. But Kate Beckinsale in the bike scene, and then it makes me wonder if Christopher Nolan watched those movies and went, you know what? I think the cat should also have a bicycle scene like this too. All in black leather outfits, all on, I think, black bikes. All brunettes. Are you noticing a trend in all these movies? I'm just saying.
Oh, totally. I'm genuinely surprised.
And even Officer Aaron Soden. Look at that. 4 of them. Bam. Done.
Right. I haven't seen the third movie like you. I'm intentionally not watching because I want to uncover these in order, right? So it may be in the third movie, but I'm genuinely surprised there was not an Akira bike slide homage at some point in this movie, right?
Yeah, we got a slide with a car. No, she did have a bike slide in this movie.
The same top-down bike slides, Drive the Other Way, Akira look. I don't think she
Oh,
had that.
I got to rewatch it to see, but I think there was one on the highway scene.
Maybe. Okay. Maybe. We'll get there. The highway scene's a whole separate thing.
All right. Neo's fight scene with all the agents.
We're not there yet.
What? Did we get our Smith fight here?
Nope. That's later. That's way after the Oracle and all that. We're not there yet. No. In fact, we've not gone. Except for the Dream, we've actually not gone back to Matrix yet. Oh no, sorry. We got back to Matrix for the meeting, which I do want to talk about that real quick. So all these Ion captains get together in the Matrix to meet, which is a cool concept, right? The idea of we have this interconnected space that was given to us by the aliens. It's used as a meeting space. Tactically makes a ton of sense, right? So they have like 15-ish people in the same room, and they're all looking like people look in the Matrix. And it looked like a parody of the Matrix, honestly, because like, just about everyone had sunglasses. Everyone's wearing a trench coat or a suit. Everyone's wearing black at some point in time. And when you have that many characters all together, like in the original Matrix movie, the same thing happened, but they didn't have all those people in the Matrix at the same time, except for a couple of very short scenes. But this is a lengthy conversation where everyone's looking very stern in differently styled sunglasses. And after a while, it's just like, this is how I would write a parody of the Matrix.
Well, Saturday Night Live, I think, had some of those. But to your point, Joe, are you saying why is not someone's projection of themselves just like them in sweatpants?
Right, or like just a different color outfit, or like not wearing sunglasses. Like all the people who aren't wearing sunglasses are people that we realize later are not characters we should care about. They're minor characters. All the important characters all wear sunglasses.
So this did have my agents fight. I didn't say Smith. I said agents. This does have my agents fight with the upgrades
the agents
where Neo
fight.
fights the agents.
I thought you said Smiths. I'm sorry. That's my fault.
No. Because I was thinking this movie cannot go for long stretches of time without having a fight scene to break up the exposition dumps. Like that is
okay. No,
vital.
No, you're right. You're right. That this is when I first noticed the floaty wire food that we were both bouncing off of a little bit during the specific Neo Smith fight scene in the first movie. There's a lot more of it in this movie, and that's one of the scenes where it's very visible.
Yeah, because I wanted to point out specifically, because these agents come in after Smith, like warns them and everything else, but these agents are physically bigger than the previous agents, which is why Neo's joke about upgrades actually lands. It's not the fighting; it's the fact they are distinctively bigger and more menacing.
And something that I did not realize watching this movie, but because of the plot summary I dug up, and then I had to look something up and I found in the Matrix Wiki of all places, is that there are multiple agent personalities now. Like Agent Johnson is the agent template we see in that fight scene, and he's a different agent. He is not Agent Smith. I was like, oh, he has a name. Of course, it's a generic name because that's what agents do. But like Agent Johnson is a different character. He's physically a bigger guy.
Yeah. So that's why that joke lands for me, at least when I see it. And then like the fight itself happens, but it's not the fight type I want. Which even the first time I saw it, it made me go, ooh, I don't know how much I'm going to love this Matrix versus the first Matrix. And even though there are upgrades here, and I think there are 3 or 4 agents, this fight scene also redefines Neo's skill level, lowering it. Like you essentially ended with Superman, like stopping bullets, diving into people, and everything else. And now you've gone and turned him into Captain America. I love Cap. Cap's awesome, but Cap cannot beat Superman in a fight.
That's a good point because and this is one of the things that I'll talk about more when we get to the larger Morpheus chunk. A lot of this movie is recontextualizing the first movie, and to be fair, I think they have to get more mileage out of this. They have to say all the stuff you saw, not just there's another layer on top of it, which this movie also will do, but separately, it wasn't quite as cool as we gave you the impression it was. Which, having watched these now back to back, it's very clear there's a retcons.
Yeah.
Now, it's clever in the sense that in the scene you're referencing, Neo has the same vaguely bored look amongst those when he's fighting those guys that he had at the very end of the first movie. So there's continuity there, right? It's like he's still distracted, but then you mentioned the upgrades line, and then now the agents are suddenly having some impact on Neo. And so he's like, oh, wait, hold on. Maybe I should actually engage with this fight a little bit. So it's doing both, right? It's the depowering Neo by saying, "Oh, that stuff you saw, he's not quite that cool as you thought he was." But then also we give you a throwaway line to explain the agents are also more powerful. So between the two, it's a decent shift, and I think I never noticed it until I watched the movies back to back.
Okay. So that strikes me, and like of course he wins, and that cut in Neo's new outfit, my wedding suit looks similar to that. I'm just saying.
Nice. Did you see the random Gina Torres bit?
She shows up more in the movie. When you so random?
So just like she was like there for like a minute and a half. She has like 3 or 4 speaking lines and then just leaves. And it's just like, wait, that's Gina Torres. What are you doing with her? Why is she leaving the film? What's going on?
I think she was actually Lawrence Fishburne's wife, if I'm not mistaken at the time.
Really? Okay.
I think that's me 50-50.
Well, I mean, for me, it was just like, it's 2003. It's a sci-fi thing. Of course, Gina Torres is in it. But why is she in it for so little time? It's like the more the question, right? It's like,
I think she had to go back to the set of Cleopatra 2525.
That show is amazing. And by amazing, I mean terrible. But also amazing.
Now I bet people are Googling, is he joking? Is Cleopatra 2525 a real show? Yes, it is a real show, people.
I have watched several episodes I own several episodes of Cleopatra 2525.
It came out around the same time, I think, as Mutant X and was it
Jack of all trades.
VIP?
It was the same 1 hour block of Jack of all trades because Jack of all trades for half an hour and then Cleopatra for half an hour.
Yeah. But I think Mutant X was around the same time, and so it was like VIP. Yeah.
Right, yeah, so she was everywhere around this time period. And I was like, yeah, that like 98 to 2004 time frame, she's done a lot of stuff. And also Firefly, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Don't care. Oh, by the way,
this is also the. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask you, did you know that Neo is Jesus, by the way? Because I don't know if this movie made it clear that Neo was a Messiah that needed to be worshipped. It was subtle. I don't know if you missed it.
Well, Eddie, I knew, much like Depeche Mode told you, he is your own personal Jesus.
He is my personal Jesus, yes. Also, Jesus is my hot rod.
I got to say, though, to be cock blocked by followers would suck.
That was so funny.
It's like, well,
so like, okay, on the one hand, I came into this going, all right, this is going to be a lot of Trinity and Neo, and I remember being a bit kind of bleh about it at the time. But on rewatch, again, it helps that the two actors have just off the charts chemistry, right? That's really helpful. It's like I genuinely see them together, so that helps. And I see them as being into each other, it helps. But then stuff like that is actually genuinely funny because like we're just a bunch of teenagers we want to make out, except for we just keep not being able to because of all the shit going on and because we're in a Matrix movie. It's like, actually really funny.
Yeah, I think the most of our Zion seems to happen here, don't they? I gotta say, I didn't need the subplot of Niobe, Morpheus, and Locke. I didn't need that. That like takes away, I think, from all 3 of their characters to make it more about their relationship is why there's all this strife instead of Morpheus's philosophy creating the problems and the rifts.
Right. If it wasn't for the fact that we have a half dozen black characters speaking parts of this movie, I would be. It has the stink of the 3 black characters on screen have to be related to each other or into each other. I can't. It's not quite that because, like I said, there's lots of characters like that on the screen. But yeah, it was just like honestly, Niobe being Morpheus's ex-girlfriend is more interesting if it had just stayed that way. But then it immediately becomes, oh, she's still into him, and it's just like, and then like, Locke's mad about that. And it's like, Locke has lots of reasons to be mad at Morpheus. This does not need to be, we don't need this extra layer, right?
And one of the reasons it really doesn't work for me is that we didn't get like the sexuality that's really important. It's all there. It's on screen. Lots of different shades and shapes of people. Awesome. And we
Yep.
get to see Neo and Trinity finally getting their spare time. Then we talk about this Morpheus relationship and everything else, and there's nothing sexual there at all. Bam.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Niobe and Locke just have nothing going on. So it's like it's.
Then why is it there? Like.
So actually, we're there. So let me just do that recap real quick. In Zion, Morpheus announces the news of the advancing machines when the tensions raised between him, Niobe, and Locke. Within the Matrix, Bane, a member of the crew, encounters the former Agent Smith. Smith forcibly overwrites his mind, effectively killing him and possessing his body. This will not have consequences later. Thus able to enter the real world, he exits the Matrix. Meanwhile, Neo becomes increasingly uncomfortable with people treating him like the Messiah, and when he can't sleep, ends up speaking to one of the counselors of Zion, Hammond. So we were drifting there, so I kind of just want to get to that section.
So, Eddie, I'm really curious. How do you feel about Bane, Eddie?
I had no idea his name was Bane until like near the end of the movie, but I was like, it's the guy that Smith turned into. Okay, fine. My frustration with Bane is that we see the guy seems to be doing a reasonably good impression of Agent Smith. When we see him after possession, he does a decent impression of him, but we don't see enough of him before the possession to see the contrast. Before him, he's just arrogant asshole and then screaming and then dead, functionally. So it's like, if there was a longer tail until that possession, like if he were more in I think he was in one of the meeting room with the pilots, but he's had like one or two lines. So like we just don't see enough of him. So I feel like that's my only frustration with it is like, if you're doing a cool impression of Agent Smith, we need to see the contrast for that.
So I'm in total agreement. My one asinine point for this entire thing is, if we're gonna have Neo and we're gonna have everyone calling Neo Jesus, we're gonna have Morpheus, and Morpheus is like the god of dreams, yada yada yada, and we're gonna have Niobe and everyone else, and like even Persephone later on. Yep. Why are we gonna call this guy Bane and not Judas and just be done with it? Like at this point, just call him Judas and let's be done. Come on.
He is the bane of humanity. He is the thing. He is the weakness in humanity that will bring them down. He is aptly named, and just because a movie later uses Bane to good effect and sets a certain impression doesn't mean that in 2003 that wasn't a good choice.
Eddie, my entire point though is literally he becomes a Judas, and we're literally labeling everyone these very specific biblical names or names from mythology. Why don't we just be done with it and call him Judas too?
Well, that's right. So I mean, like, arguably, then Morpheus should be called Moses and whatnot. But like, that actually leads to a frustration I have with the movie is that.
Well, but Morpheus wouldn't be Moses. He would be technically. He's like being the reverse of Morpheus. He's like waking people up from dreams and putting them to sleep.
Well, right.
Digression.
My point is like, we talked about how the first movie was muddy, right, and a little inconsistent. But we both kind of landed on that was to the movie's benefit because it was supposed to be kind of a surrealist, trippy movie. And so leaving things open for you to figure out was part of the fun of it, right? This movie is ostensibly now going to explain things for us. And for the most part, the movie does. But it's starting to mix. The muddiness is now starting to cause actual problems for the movie and the franchise. And Morpheus is, for me, the big problem with this. It's not the actors, not the lines, not the parts. Love all of that. But in watching this chunk, specifically the Zion piece, Morpheus, and this goes back to your comments about Locke, everyone in power, everyone who's not on the Nebuchadnezzar or who is in power, thinks Morpheus is a crackpot. And I like that for him. I like the idea of this guy in the first movie who seemed like he's full of wisdom. Turns out he's just a weird-ass zealot. And everyone thinks he's crazy, right? I was like, that's actually a good way to reframe that. Going back to our reframing thing. We thought Morpheus was actually in touch with everything. Turns out maybe he's not. Except when he gives the speech and literally everyone is chanting his name.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, so he is the person we thought he was. So now the people in charge, or who are not an Nebuchadnezzar, and I had that caveat because Locke's girlfriend also falls in this category, and Niobe sometimes falls in this category, depending on the plot requires it. Or like, well, everyone knows Morpheus is crazy. And it's like, who's everyone? Because aside from you 5 characters, nobody else thinks this.
So you mean Link's girlfriend or wife, right? The brother, the sister of those two. Because you said Locke, which would be Niobe.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Link and Locke are 2 very similar names. That's another bad choice, by the way. But
yeah. So I'm still mad about my Judas thing.
No.
All right, I'll let it go.
And
I bring it up again specifically because you mentioned Locke. Locke's entire role is to lock down the city. Link's role is to link Tank and him to more. Why just not fucking Judas and be done with it? All right, I'm done. That's my rant. I'm done.
Fair, but that's kind of where my point was that I feel like they're trying to introduce clarity and subtlety simultaneously, and it's like you're coming from a movie with characters like Morpheus and Trinity, and it's like subtlety is not a possible outcome for you. So you're right. Like you should just be explicit and introduce nuance through character interaction. But the problem is they're trying to do both, and so it's like, is Morpheus crazy, or and it's like, again, it would have been so much better if it was unsubtle. Like literally everyone outside Nebuchadnezzar thinks Nebuchadnezzar is just a ship of fools, right? It's like you're all a bunch of zealots who are going to get us all killed. And if everyone thought that across the board, I think, and just be unsubtle about it, I think that probably would have actually been better. But it's not. There's all this weirdness. I think it goes back to the video game. They had to have different factions in Zion so that the video game would work.
Because I was about to say, to some extent, that they're having the Marvel problem, where you don't need to watch all their stuff for anything to make sense. You may miss context, but you can still watch it. Which the video game, as you were saying then, would have linked all those different factions and we'd have a better understanding of how Zion operated. Which without that, it feels weird, but we can still watch and enjoy the movie.
Right. Exactly. And again, like, because I'm hyper analyzing it, I see this stuff. I don't remember any of this being a problem when I first watched it. And even when I was watching it, I was like, I in my brain, I'm going, I know I'm nitpicking at this point, but it definitely does feel like, but it was particularly noticeable when like you go from a scene of Persephone going, you're crazy, Morpheus gets you killed. We all think, no one believes that he's the one, and then going to him and like hundreds of people cheering his name. I'm like, okay, that hard cut is the problem, right?
Which they do drop a line here, and Morpheus says it, I think, to Locke, is that we, in the past 6 months since we've had Neo, we've gotten more people free than we have in 6 years beforehand.
Right.
Which then would also slightly undercutting some of my comments about like people not believing he's the one, but if your numbers have jumped that much, that would infer that Morpheus has some sort of correctness, but still not enough that you would bet your society on it. But Morpheus would have a larger fan base. But then why is Locke in charge?
Exactly. It feels like what they're trying to say is the council and the powers that be don't believe Morpheus, except for Hammond. Hammond's the only person who's willing to give him an ear, and Hammond has enough control of the council, which is why Morpheus is away with his bullshit. But the rank and file people all believe in Neo and Morpheus, which is why we get the dynamics we do. I think that's what they're going for, but it's not quite on the screen that way. I have to do a lot of work to fill that gap in.
Yeah. I think I don't want to add more time to the movie, but I think like another 2 or 3 minutes of showing some of the other factions, not on like larger scale people that influence and power, but like some of the lower rung people would have sold that message.
Yeah.
Like a debate between 2 or 3 different little faction members in a bar before they go out to the orgy.
Yeah, and you're right. I think we see some of that in the meeting with the captains scene we have earlier, but we don't quite know what's happening there, so we don't get that there may be factions until way later in the movie. Not way later, but like 15 minutes later, right? So like there's no way to reorder that, but you know what I'm saying? If we had another meeting of the captains afterwards, we could see more clearly, there are factions amongst the captains. And then, like you said, like a bar fight where someone's like, my wife was saved by the one. And it's like, one's nothing. It's like, you take that back, Pam, something like that,
And then it all ends in the big orgy. So everybody's happy at the end of the day.
Speaking of the orgy, great scene. Loved it, actually. One thing I noticed actually is that I was about to ding the movie because there's chunks we see where we see the back of Neo's head. He's missing his port, and I was like, did they just forget that ports exist? But then this party happens, and there's lots of people in various states of undress, and all of them have ports on. And so I actually wrapped around. It's like that's really good attention to detail. So like, there's a couple continuity errors, but even in the sex scene with Trinity and Neo, you can see their ports during that scene. So it's like, okay, generally speaking, that's your really good attention to detail. A couple minor exceptions if you ignore them, and the fact that they do it more often than they perhaps needed to was a really cool consistency.
Agreed. I kind of love that.
Mhm.
But then again, they have an R rating. I'm glad to see they actually use some of their R rating for sex somewhat, because I am tired of R ratings just strictly being for violence.
Yeah, no, totally. It's like if you have the R, man, use it. Use it both ways.
So many jokes I can make right now.
Ta-da!
But I'll be more
All right.
flexible than that and not do it.
Yeah, okay, but just
All right, my last one for you, Eddie. Are we about to pull out of Zion? All right, go ahead.
69 responses to that. After the Oracle summons Neo, the counselor goes against Locke's command and allows Nebuchadnezzar to leave Zion and enter the Matrix. Neo meets the Oracle's bodyguard, Seraph, who leads him to her. The Oracle reveals that she is part of the Matrix and instructs Neo to reach its source with the help of the Keymaker. As the Oracle departs, Smith appears, telling Neo that he became a rogue program after being defeated by him. He demonstrates his ability to clone himself over other inhabitants of the Matrix, including their newly upgraded agents, Agent Johnson. He tries to take over Neo's body, but fails, prompting a battle between Neo and many copies of Smith. Neo defends himself, but is forced to retreat. And we'll talk about that scene, I'm sure. But before we do, I had to have a soft spot for the Seraph Neo fight.
Yeah.
Which I don't think gets enough love because it's so specifically that late 90s Jackie Chan, Jet Li style of fight. The very, very explicitly choreographed, very ground-based, fighting around in a specific space and using that space to your specific advantage. Jackie Chan comes to mind a lot for that kind of choreography, but that specific choreography, it fits within the Matrix, but it's still slightly distinct from the other fights in the Matrix. It's not quite as wire fu, and so I have a soft spot for that specific fight.
Yeah, it is very nice. But I like the fact that he apologizes before he has a fight.
Yes. That's why I have to do this. Why? And I love the fact that, like, the movie almost walks up to the line of, it's been too long since we had a fight in this movie. We have to have a fight now. Right? Yeah. And Seraph is kind of half acknowledging that, but it still makes a degree of sense inside the logic of the movie. So, like, it's not fourth wall breaking, but certainly it is a bit of a weak to the logic. We're going to have a fight here. Come on. We know what this movie is. Like, all right, yes, we are.
We gave a lot of exposition. We need to break from that.
Right. And something
I love the Oracle. I love the actress who plays the Oracle, and I am so sad that she passed away after this movie.
Yep. What do you, before I go into this, what are your thoughts about the Oracle turning out to be just another program in the Matrix?
I am not a fan of it.
Okay, neither am I. I'm curious what your reasons are. I wonder if they're the same.
Because, all right, the first Matrix movie was groundbreaking, which we've established. This was a chance not to fall into like a rote and have everything be the same sort of part of a thing. You could actually have a layer of mystery that you could have included into it. The fact that it's just another part of the program cuts off so many different avenues that could have gone for the entire Matrix verse.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of my similar problem I have with the new Star Wars stuff, how everything keeps happening on fucking Tatooine, or it's all related to a Skywalker. You're trying to create something that has infinite possibilities while narrowing everything down to one or two things. It doesn't work.
It's funny you did that because in my notes, I likened it to midichlorians, which is this is the thing we did not have to explain, but you've explained it, and now everything is worse afterwards.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if the Oracle had just been some weird part of the Matrix that has strange powers, I think that would have been great. I think it would have been fine. We didn't need to explain what the Oracle was. But she's like, nope, I'm just a program. And it's like, on the one hand, I see the instinct to do that because, like, of course she knows what's going to happen then because she's a program and she can read, the code of what's going to happen. But then it opens up so many more problems and also contradicts the scene that she was in the first movie. So it's like, by your attempt to solve a question nobody was asking, now my relationship with her in the first movie is actually worse, not let alone this movie.
And the thing is, like, for us, it's last week we kind of watched this one. For everyone else,
Right.
it's like 3 or 4 years difference, and they can constantly keep doing these soft recons throughout the movie, and people don't really notice because when you're making it, you're not thinking about what happens when someone watches it in a couple of years back to back.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, yes, this is the era where DVDs are becoming a thing, but that's you have to assume people have a bit of fuzzy memory and take advantage of that. And again, like, this is a bunch of rolling retcons. This is just one too far. I will say the visual gag that I never noticed until this watch of her giving him candy and those candy look like little red pills was a great touch. That was fantastic. And you're right. Everything about the actor and what she did and how she plays it, love it. Love it to death. I give this scene a soft pass primarily because of her. But, oof. The other thing that I noticed this time around, and it starts here, it gets extremely obvious later, but I want to mention it here, is the last movie is all about phones. That was the metaphor for how we do things, how you get down the matrix, and everything revolved around phones as iconography, including, like you said, the spin, where the spin was literally around a phone and the people around the phone. This is Doors. Doors is the big iconography for this movie. And it starts innocently enough of like, these are backdoors into the program. Okay, that makes sense. Backdoor is a thing that happens. That works roughly how it works in programming. So that works. And then the movie goes, cool, we have a metaphor. We're going to run it into the ground. It's like, okay. But it starts here.
Eddie, up till now, you could say it felt kind of vaguely like a video game. It touches on it. The fact the Oracle now gives Neo a quest to go recover the Keymaker. I want to keep saying Keymaster from Ghostbusters.
I know.
Like, we're full on video game now. Like, that is what we've decided. The rest of the Matrix movie needs to be a video game. We don't need to go anywhere else.
Right.
And I'm not a fan of
including, which again, like it's actually a little bit funny because I like how it landed, but it is a bit video gamey in the sense of Oracle's like, oh shit, my time is up. I have to go. Sarah has to take me. The door closes and Mr. Smith immediately shows up because there is no time. Like, the next movie in the video game has loaded. And so now you have to fight him now, right? There's just no time between them. Like, the door closes and you hear Mr. Anderson right behind him. It's like, and again, it's showing that she has predicted things down to the second, which if you hadn't just ruined it for me would be cool. But now I'm just frustrated and mad about it. But it does feel very video gamey of like, and here's now the obligatory fight. That said,
the obligatory fight has left the room.
Yes, right. But that said, the obligatory fight is amazing. I don't know if it's $40 million impressive. That still seems like a ludicrously high number to me. But like, I was watching that going, this is 2003 special effects technology. And there are movies today, I think, that would struggle to put that scene together.
Yeah.
I was
before you get into the fight proper, why do you think Smith couldn't take over Neo's body?
So, like, I think the movie wants to be like, oh, he's the one that has special powers, and that's why, right? Again, it's the Force, Skywalker bullshit. My thought is, and my stupid retconny comic books brain is, if I remember correctly, in the first movie, at one point in time, Neo literally punches through Smith.
He dives into him and then like explodes out of him.
Right. So she already has Smith in him. You can't inject more code where that code's already there. I mean, you can guess not how computers work, but from our logic of our world, right? He already has. All right, let me just lean into it. H. Smith's already inside of him, and he can't get any more in him.
Okay, thank you.
I realized halfway through that sentence where you were leading me, and I decided to go ahead and step in.
Oh man. So Eddie, do you regret this recording later in the day when I'm more awake?
I do. I don't think I like this anymore. We should go back to you being half awake.
All right, though. So, I'm of two minds about this scene. I love the dynamics of like just dozens and dozens of Smiths pouring in to have the fight.
Yep.
But the fact that we then go so hardcore into what feels like Looney Tunes cinematography for it loses me to some extent.
So, that's an interesting point, right? Like after I watched the scene, I was like, why am I not getting the same high as the original climactic Neo Smith fight? Because we dinged that fight a little bit, but it's like, oh, we love it though. And then this one's like, no, it's flawless from a visual perspective, but I don't have the same impact, right? And I think it's primarily to your point about reframing. It is the too many ninjas problem. The too many ninjas problem, for those who don't know, is that a singular ninja is a devastating assassin who cannot be defeated by anyone, but 1,000 ninjas have the constitution of tissue paper and will fall with one punch.
I think for our podcast, Eddie, we need to reframe your reframing.
Too many Daleks?
Too many Daleks.
That was the other way I was going to go.
Death machine. 1,000 Daleks, tissue paper.
Right. The episode Dalek, which had one Dalek who was terrifying and murdered most of the people there, but yet when a Dalek invasion comes, the Doctor and some bullshit nonsense takes all of them out. Right. That's the too many Daleks problem.
We are by nature an old school Doctor Who podcast in our bones, so we got to go with that.
Right. So I think that was it for me, was that the idea was we're reframing Neo as being not as powerful as we thought, and part of that is we're going to throw a whole bunch of Mr. Smith at him, and he's going to just barely survive and have to flee. But they also are a Matrix movie and have to have a visual spectacle that has not been seen before. And so both of those briefs have been accomplished, but they are mildly, not entirely, but mildly canceling each other out.
I think that's part of it. But I really, really feel that there's something with the Looney Tune aspects of it. And part of it goes back to the first movie when he was in the training space, like when he tried to make the jump and failed. Now he went into the ground and then pounced back up to show you that it wasn't reality, but it was that. I feel that some of that is in this fight scene.
That's a good point.
And we've established, I think that we like the gritty visceralness of the fight without some of the cartoonishness.
That's a really good point. Whereas in the original movie, it's not quite a joke, but it has all the feelings of a joke.
Yeah.
Because we as the audience go, oh my God, he's going to die. I mean, we know he's not going to die, but there's that more, how's he going to get out of this? And then the rest of the crew is like, ha, 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 everyone falls the first time, and they think it's a big joke. And it's because of the rubberiness that sells the joke that they have, even though we as the audience aren't in on the joke until it's too late. But you're right, here it's, I think it's a bit too much of the anime influence, particularly when he gets to the pipe, I think. And suddenly he's just swinging around the pipe and flowing things around, and it feels very Dragon Ball Z Shonen.
Yes,
5,
that's
right?
it.
But you're right. We like the more visceral, grounded fights, even though this is high-powered stuff. And so that's in the first movie. Shifting genres was the point, but it's also each genre was pretty clearly self-contained until near the end when it started to blur together. Now we're in a new genre, and now the tone just feels all over the place.
Yeah, which is going to be demonstrated the more the movie goes on. It is totally inconsistent without being able to pull off the merging they did last time.
Especially because it's right after the Seraph Neo fight, Yeah. And so everyone talks about the Burly Brawl is so visually amazing. It's like, yeah, but the Seraph Neo fight is actually a better fight. But again, I'm gonna keep saying it. I also watched every minute of that huge ass fight. It's visually stunning. It's just you. I think where we're landing is not satisfying.
Yeah, and you have to give a lot of props to Hugo Weaving, who think about the
Yeah.
days of him having to like do different stances, different facial movements, and everything else, so they could take those and superimpose those on dozens of other actors.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I saw it 27 days. The first thing I thought was like, holy shit, Hugo must have to do all of those days.
And if I remember right, didn't they have a lot more training for this movie too? Kind of how they did for the first one.
Yes, I believe the person who played Seraph helped also with the training because he has a strong martial arts background. So I think he was actually helping with the training as well as that scene.
Okay.
And also, in the middle of all this, remember, Hugo Weaving was also doing shooting for Lord of the Rings during all of this, right? Hugo, I have no. The more I dig into these movies, the more I have nothing but respect for Hugo Weaving.
When was V for Vendetta?
Around this time, I don't know exactly when, but it was around the early 2000s. Because it was because I know that because it was before Watchmen. Because V for Vendetta is when Alan Moore said, "Fuck it, I'm out," and then Watchmen came around. He's like, "I'm already out. I don't care." So that is why I know the order of these movies because I'm a nerd. Alan Moore's anger is how I track life.
Better watch out. That lizard's going to get you, man.
He is. Anything else about this chunk?
I just keep thinking to myself now that you said that, hearing him say "Mr. Baggins" over and over is playing in my brain.
Oh, that's the reason why I chose that chunk of dialogue. Partially because it's good, but also he does say Mr. Anderson a weirdly improbable amount. But I realize that's the point. Is he's like when you read it just like me, it's like, why is he saying Mr. Anderson so much? But like when you in the dialogue, he's wanting to reinforce you're not Neo, you are Mr. Anderson. You're not the one, you are Mr. Anderson. It's like it actually plays really well, but on the page it looks ridiculous, which is just props to Hugo Weaving, frankly.
And to some aspects, I don't know. So I can't speak of it from personal perspective, but I would think to some aspect, if the Wachowskis were transitioning or thinking about transitioning at the time, to have that sort of malevolent influence coming and essentially in some aspect trying to deny your true person is also something that would be conveyed in the story.
Oh, so the dead naming energy, basically.
Yes.
Oh, that's actually a really good point. I hadn't noticed that before. Yeah, I dig that a lot.
And for me, part of it comes out of that because not only get that, then we get him multiplying himself into a society of people trying to oppress that person and stop them from being who they really want to be.
Right. So Agent Smith becomes a culture, a society. Yeah, like you say. Nice. Oh, that's very good. I like that a lot. Well, now I like to see more. So good job.
Hey.
Anything else?
Nah.
Okay. Back in the real world, two captains, including Captain Naomi of the Logos and some other guy I didn't care a name for, volunteer to track down the Nebuchadnezzar. Neo, Morpheus, and Trinity visit the Merovingian, who is imprisoning the Keymaker. The Merovingian, a rogue program with his own agenda, refuses to let the Keymaker go. His wife Persephone, seeking revenge of her husband for his infidelity, leads the trio to the Keymaker. Morpheus, Trinity, and the Keymaker flee while Neo holds off the Merovingian's henchmen. Morpheus and Trinity try to escape with the Keymaker, pursued by several agents and the Merovingian's chief henchmen, the twins. After a long chase, Trinity escapes, Morpheus defeats the twins, and Neo and Niobe save Morpheus and the Keymaker from Agent Johnson. So, you said video games. The whole Merovingian chunk is so obviously video gaming. Like, to the point where Morpheus and Neo literally say, wait a minute, aren't we supposed to do something here? And Morpheus says, wait for the next video game plot beat to happen. And then Persephone shows up. And I'm just like, oh my God.
Oh God.
All
right, where do you want to go with this?
So, okay, evil French guy is evil, right? Got it. Sure, great. The one thing I got out of this is there's an interesting concept happening here. And I don't know if it's intentional. I don't know if it'll carry through the third movie. So I may just be wanting to like this movie, but that each of the road programs we see now are starting to embody an emotion, right? Um, Agent Smith is anger. The Merovingian is lust. Uh, uh, Persephone is passion, which is distinct from lust. And so I feel like that's kind of where this is going, is that all of these programs are like, they want to be human. They haven't quite they figured out one piece of the human equation, and they're just going to run that piece into the ground. I don't know if this theory will hold out through the third movie. We shall see.
I don't know. I'll have to think of that. I'll keep an eye on that myself.
Like, at one point, I was kind of going, can we map all the rogue programs to 7 Deadly Sins? I think that's probably not going to happen, but that was kind of in my brain at one point.
I feel that the Wachowskis would have, in my mind's eye, the Wachowskis would go for something deeper and more meaningful than that trope, based on the context they made everyone read through and go through for the first Matrix movie.
Right. Now that you've brought up the trans context, maybe some of this is also, damn, hetero people are weird, right? You know?
True. That's true. I don't know what to really say about this beat, other than I myself would like to kiss Monica Bellucci. I said it. I put it out there in the world.
Sure, right? Yeah.
One of the most beautiful women in the world.
But yeah, honestly, I mean, I feel like a lot of this is just keeping time until the car chase scene, the highway.
I think I did hear, though, in the video game, I want to say Niobe kisses her too. Is that thing something happens in the video game? I think it was like a live action beat in the video game.
Ah, interesting. I would love to see if anyone has recovered those and maybe dig those up at some point. I'm sure someone probably has, but you never know.
There's. All right.
Oh, okay.
You know what?
Actually, I take it back. There is a couple of things in this scene that we do need to talk about because they're related to other beats of the movie. The Merovingian makes a throwaway, well, not throwaway, he says it 2 times. Comments to Neo saying, the previous versions of you couldn't stop me. Which, at first I was like, that's weird. And then he says it again, like, okay, that's something to pay attention to. And turns out it will be. That's relevant. But the other thing is, it's around this point where they talk about how rogue elements in the Matrix are wickedly confused with werewolves and spirits and vampires and other supernatural creatures. Which explains the twins, because they're ghosts, right? But also is another, for me, example of, you didn't need to explain that. Right? The deja vu bit works in the previous Matrix because it's a weird thing that we have experienced. And it goes, oh, that's weird. And now you're saying myths and legends are also hacks to the Matrix. And it's just like, you just made things. If you'd not had that line beforehand, the twins would be super creepy and cool. But now it's like, okay, they're just fucking ghosts. So now I'm just bored because they're ghosts.
But then we wouldn't get Persephone's cool scene where she gets to shoot someone with silver bullets.
Here's my point, though. Like, she didn't have to say that they had silver bullets. She could just say, you know, I've hacked this gun to shoot the twins. You know, we don't need to explain this shit. The movie's trying so hard to close all the gaps, and it's making the whole thing less interesting in some level.
I agree. I also am not going to talk about 2 white people with dreads. I'm just going to glaze over that.
Right. Now, to counterbalance all of that, there's also really good world building that ties back to stuff I liked in the first Matrix, because as they're escaping, Morpheus is like, we need to go to the interchange. And Trivian's like, that's on the highway. I know. We're never supposed to go to the highway. And then they just never explain, right? We find out later what. At the highway, we find out why the highway's dangerous, because the highway's dangerous. But like, in the moment, they just go, oh yeah, the reason why I've never left the city is because the highway is terrifying and nobody goes there. Even Trinity is scared of the highway.
So, since I haven't read your summary, is the highway in the next beat, or do we need to talk about the highway here?
Yes. No, sorry. The highway's buried in this. After the long chase is the whole highway scene. because this is the car chase. We never
Okay.
got a car chase in the Matrix. This is
All right.
all the car chase
Then
stuff.
I want to take a step back for when they flee with the Keymaster through the door and everything else.
Keymaker.
Neo's fight with the henchman is once again reframing Neo's skill level.
Oh, okay.
And
right.
my biggest issue I'm having is the inconsistency of Neo's skill levels. Like, even fighting the bajillion Smiths, he should have easily potentially been able to take out these rogue programs. But that's not there. But then the agents at the start of the movie were upgrades shouldn't have given it that much of a problem. So there's not knowing how to handle Neo is constantly reoccurring in this movie for me. And it feels like they're just trying to shift it around more and more.
Yeah, to the point where literally Neo is just absent for the entire highway scene, right? They literally write him out, like throw him 500 miles away, so that he's not there, just so you don't have to deal with that problem for that scene.
Which, for me, since I wanted to mention that, and like Neo fights
Sure.
and kills him, and like that, inconsistent. The highway scene is the best part of this entire movie, in my opinion. It has the best action. It has the best everything, and it's focused on Trinity, Morpheus, and the Keymaker. Love it. Like, stakes, feels real and visceral, everything.
To our earlier point, right? Like, it's when you make a new movie, what do you do? And there's been a lot of answers to that, but one of the answers, I think the more correct answer, is do something you haven't done before, but in the same style. And the thing is, we did not get any car chases in the first movie. So we're going to get a big ass car chase, and it's going to be crazy, and it's going to do lots of weird Matrix shit in a car chase that you've not seen before. And again, car chases after this movie change, right? The kinds of action we see in car chases differ after 2003. So you're right. This is a fantastic bit of the movie, and it's 80% action movie and 20% random weird surreal shit. Like, as much stick as the twins get, and they deserve a lot of it, the idea of them like getting shot, falling off a truck, turning insubstantial, and falling into a seat and turning substantial right as you land in the seat is fucking cool.
Yeah.
It visually just striking. Is. And there's no cuts. It's just one long take. It's like, that's amazing. It's ballsy. It looks cool as hell. Fighting on top of a semi-truck while it's jackknifing is cool.
And watching Morpheus fight an upgraded agent who couldn't beat like the standard agents is something that is like thrilling. And you think that maybe they'll actually kill Morpheus because Morpheus isn't the main character. So there is that stakes the first time you watch it going on there. And to see him constantly evolving his own fighting to try to handle the person. Something I read somewhere is like Lawrence Fishburne made a distinctive choice to mirror his own fight with Smith in the first movie. That's why he takes off his sunglasses before he fights Johnson.
Nice. And he does the hand thing too. I saw that.
Yeah. And during the fight, you'll see that he doesn't have a gun, but then he has a gun. If you look closely, he takes the agent's gun to shoot at him.
Oh, wow.
Because one of the things when he throws a punch, his hand goes inside the coat to pull out the agent's gun.
Oh, that's cool. Right.
So there's lots of those cool beats.
And honestly, it was very smart to write Neo and Smith out of this scene for a long period of time. Because it does a lot of things. Like, not only that, but also Johnson now becomes a credible threat, which he wasn't until this part of the movie. Johnson was just the schmuck who got possessed by Smith, the character we know. Now it's like, oh, I'm actually scared of this guy too. He's the upgraded agent, but also Johnson. I mean, he has no personality. None of the agents do, but like he has a different style. He has that. They took the raw brutality. We talked about fighting styles in the first movie and how Smith had very punchy, heavy strength style. Johnson goes even further with that ethos, and becomes just like almost like the Hulk. He's not as big as the Hulk, but like the vibes and the fighting style feel like just that big, powerful, massive guy. And so he doesn't. I mean, I suppose if you looked at him on the screen, probably not that big, but everything about the way he's shot and the way he's choreographed, he feels big. And it's great because he looks like a real threat. And like, there's points where it's like, because none of these characters are Neo, and we've seen visions of Trinity potentially dying. It's like, someone might die in this scene, There's possible real threat on the table. There's consequences on the table here, which frankly up to this movie there hasn't really been.
And then we get another great shots of Trinity too, because we've seen Trinity can fight and is a badass, but we're
Yep.
getting to see like she can also ride the motorcycle like it's someone's business and constantly like navigating left and right. And at the same time, the handoff of the Keymaster is exceptional because it also shows that Morpheus and Trinity have obviously been working together for years,
Right.
like knowing those things, and that is a very nice touch to build those
Right.
characters.
And then take all of that, right? And then have separately the realization that all of this is a fucking escort quest. You have to get an NPC from one end of the highway to the other without him dying. That is straight up video game.
But so now we're taking away from all the great stuff to some of the other points. It also has the problem for me of if the interstate is supposed to this death trap you won't go on. Why? Because it doesn't appear that more than 2 agents, maybe 3, could be generated at a time that the Matrix could create. Because otherwise, why would it not turn like 10 agents on the field, like 10 people into agents, and just be done with this problem?
The way I read it, and again, I'm filling in gaps here, so like this is me retconning, was that because the twins were also taking control of programs, that there may have been fighting for resources. Because the twins and the agents were also fighting each other a little bit. So I read it as when the Matrix is working and not falling apart and with more rogue programs running around, that agents can just take control of most of the drivers. And so that way you are surrounded with a bunch of agents who also have a ton of vehicle that can run you down. That's why the highway is so dangerous. And so I read it as they can't quite do this time. And that's part of the reason why Morpheus and Trinity keep changing the playing field is to continually disorient the programs. So they have to constantly shuffle their resources around. But I will agree with you. The movie has none of that on the screen. I'm filling in way too many gaps.
And my gentle pushback on that is going to be, even in the first movie, there are only ever 3 agents at a time, which in those situations, it made sense to have fewer agents. This situation, it does not.
Sure. No, that's fair.
And then that's undercut with Neo flying super fast to get here.
And that's another thing is like, we're not going to make it. And then Neo literally at the last second swoops in to save the day. And it's just like, man, I don't like Neo. Because it's literally the Deus Ex Machina,
Yeah.
It actually literally, because it's God the machine, it's literally that. But it's just they almost make it, and then Neo has to save their ass, and it's just like, and so the fact that Neo got written out so they can have that scene is extremely obvious.
Yeah. So
yeah, but fantastic scene, just visually amazing scene. Anything else?
Yeah, no, I'm good. Like Neo flying in, kind of like kibosh the rest of my excitement for it.
Okay. Inside the Matrix, the crews of the Nebuchadnezzar, Vigilant, and Logos help the Keymaker and Neo reach the source. The Logos crew must destroy a power plant, and the Vigilant crew must disable a backup power station to bypass the security system, allowing Neo to enter the source. Still haunted by visions of Trinity's death, he asks her to remain behind the Nebuchadnezzar. The Logos crew is successful, but the Vigilant crew is destroyed by Sentinel. Trinity replaces the Vigilant crew and completes their mission. Agent Thompson corners her and they fight. As Neo, Morpheus, and the Keymaker try to reach the source, the Smiths ambush them. The Keymaker is killed after unlocking a door to the source for Neo. And so, by the way, because he's a Keymaker, so he opens doors, because you go through doors to get to the places, and doors are the symbol you see, because doors.
Yeah. I was waiting for Gozer Destroyer to pop up, but each their own. Yeah, you know what this is, Eddie? This is like the Batman problem for Batman 3. You can't save both Robin and your love interest, Batman. Ah! Then I realized I could.
Right.
But Neo didn't realize he could. So,
well, even before that, though, something that had been in the back of my head throughout the whole movie that becomes painfully obvious here is Neo is struggling to tell Trinity, I don't want you there because you might die. We have established, both in the first movie and in the first part of this movie, that she unabashedly believes that he is the savior of humanity. Right? And that he has visions of the future. So why does he not just tell her that? So much of this half of the movie would be solved if Neo just said, Trinity, you're going to die because I had a vision. The Oracle confirmed that vision. So please stay here and don't die. And she'd have been, and she wouldn't have gone. And granted, everything would fall apart and Zion would fall. But that's not my... There's artificial drama.
I am in agreement with you. I think he should have told her. And I still think that it wouldn't have solved all the problems, because if we built Trinity up enough, which we have at this point, she's saying she won't go because she'll die, is what Trinity would do until she realized she had to go to save Neo, which then reinforces that cycle of self-sacrifice for heroism.
Fair point. Like, I mean, if she knew that she was going to die and then still went, that would make her even more heroic, actually. So it'd be better for her if he told her from that perspective, too.
Because a lot of this movie comes down to... has turned Trinity... It hasn't put Trinity on a shelf, but it has changed her role to angsty love interest. She gets brief snippets of doing cool stuff, but her primary emotional beat has been angsty love interest.
Yeah, my only caveat, I generally agree with you. My only caveat is when she is not doing that, she is doing Morpheus's backup support. Right. Her agency, her individual agency as a character is basically done after the first movie.
Yeah. And if he tells her and she says, all right, I won't go. And then she says, if I don't go, these two people that I care about and humanity are dead. And she goes, that gives her back her agency. That makes her even better. Right. And it only enhances the movie. And it gets rid of a thing I hate when people don't solve problems by talking about.
Right, exactly. And as you pointed out, them talking about it doesn't actually makes the movie better. But it just comes down to Neo's just being an asshole. It's like, no, I just said to stay here. And she's like, well, I'm not going to do that. But then so that was in my head. And then I started seeing the wheels coming off. Partially with, we have a third agent here, which is neat in the abstract, but you just spent a whole scene building up a completely different agent. Why isn't he here? Right? And specifically, the agent that almost killed her on the highway. So he should be the one confronting her here. And then the whole plot that they spend way too long trying to make sure the audience gets is that they want to knock out the power. And then they knock out the power. And everyone looks around and goes, the power is out, but the lights are still on the whole time.
Backup generator, Eddie, for lights and life support.
The backup generator is the whole reason why Trinity's supposed to be there. There's a whole... They cover that. And when that goes down, the lights are still on. And I'm just like, this movie's starting to fall apart, isn't it?
Starting. So we get Smith trying to take over Morpheus. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I guess. Maybe.
Yeah. We had a hallway fight scene that Daredevil says we could beat that.
Right. Should I mention that the Asian guy with very few lines gets murdered at Black Convenient Point?
Yep.
Yeah, it's just like, a lot of really rough things happen after a couple of really cool scenes, and it's just like, okay, you've had a bad 15 minutes. Can you pull it out? But this is a bad 15 minutes.
You don't like the fact that even as he's dying, he's like, Neo, you'll know the door. Morpheus, that's the way back to your ship. Because you can't go in there with the Morpheus. The quest requires that you go somewhere else first. Oh, my lines. I'm dead.
the programmers haven't figured out this path. You have to go this way. They're invisible walls. Yeah. Now, keep all this video game stuff in mind. We'll talk about this again in Matrix 4. But anything else before we get to another scene I want to have a conversation about?
No. I think I'm good.
Okay. Whew. Neo meets a program called the Architect, the creator of the Matrix, who explains that as the One, Neo is an intentional part of the design of the Matrix, which is now in its 6th iteration. Neo is meant to stop the Matrix fatal system crash that naturally occurs due to humans' free will, leading to dozens of humans gradually refusing to accept the simulation. As with the 5 previous ones, Neo has a choice: either reboot the Matrix from the source and pick a handful of survivors to repopulate the soon-to-be-destroyed Zion, as his predecessors all did, or go save the Imperial Trinity, causing the Matrix to crash and kill everyone in it. Neo chooses the latter, prompting a dismissive response from the Architect. Okay. The Architect. This is like the big thing everyone remembers about this movie, mostly for bad reasons. So I'm gonna start with the good. I do like the video screen motif. It starts off like, of course, he's on all the video screens. That's kind of an obvious thing. But then watching the various Neos slowly differ from what Neo himself is doing, and then when the revelation that he's not the only one, we start to see all the different possibilities that Neo could do, and the Architect appearing to account for them, is an interesting visual way to explain how the Architect is mentally calculating all the probabilities.
Yeah.
I like that. I also like the Architect is basically the White Guardian. That's neither here nor there.
Did you know that the Architect was supposed to be Sean Connery, Eddie? That's who they wanted.
God, that would be so much worse.
But he didn't understand the script, so he didn't take it.
That's frankly for all the benefits.
I did read somewhere also that supposedly there's, I think one of the screens shows someone from The Prisoner, because the Wachowskis really like The Prisoner. Mm-hmm. And when I read that, I was like, that makes sense, because some of the stuff going on, and Neo's also number 6.
Right. He's the 6th. Okay, actually, he's number 6, yes, but also he's literally the 6th. I just got that. That's actually really good. Nice.
Yeah.
And I like that when the Architects like hear the choices in front of you, there are a lot of the screens behind Neo that are going, no, fuck you, and flipping him off, evoking how Anderson was treating Mr. Smith in the very first movie.
Yeah.
And then Neo reacts differently than the screens do. So like it's a nice way to kind of show Neo has changed the character since that first movie. It's like, okay, cool. Again, nice way to kind of reinforce that people are growing and changing throughout these movies. And I will even say I appreciate the attempt to try to say Neo as Superman is all part of their elaborate plan and something that was predicted from the beginning. But honestly, no, the whole thing makes no fucking sense. It just doesn't. I genuinely, sincerely tried to make sense of what the Architect was talking about here, and I could not figure it out. So like, it's, I'm like halfway there. The idea of prophecy, the whole idea of the prophecy and the Neo being the one and whatnot, the reason why the prophecy works is that this is actually an endlessly repeating cycle. And so people are starting to subconsciously recognize the cycles of the previous matrices and applying it to this matrix. And so what they're ascribing to prophecy is actually a recognition of cycle. And it's like it's a neat way to kind of address the philosophical muddiness of the first movie, with the small problem of the philosophical muddiness of the first movie was the thing that people liked. You're explaining away. You move from explaining away things that need to be explained to not explaining away things that people actually didn't want explained and are probably mad that you have explained. Turns out that is what happened. Because this scene, from what I understand, a lot of people don't like.
And to see that people make fun of, like, this is the SNL sketch that I remember that has Will Ferrell, I think, as the architect, telling someone all this, going on and on ad nauseum about it. I don't know. I understand why they would try to do it, but it has never sat quite right with me. But at the same time, it's kind of how they try to explain the Oracle being like the empathetic half, like the mother essentially to like the architect's father.
Yeah. And weirdly, this scene does a mild bit of damage control on the Oracle scene we just heavily dinged, right? Because I'm still mad about it, and I don't think I'll ever be unmad about it, but it does have an interesting retrospective layer because in the first movie, the whole bit was like, you're not the one. Sorry to tell you, kid, right? And that's the whole point of it. Now that can be read as the Oracle trying to warn Anderson away from becoming the one. Because everyone's like, you're the one, you're the one, you're the one. She's like, seriously, no, you don't want to be the one. But you can't say you don't want to be the one because you're a 21-year-old man. Of course you're going to want to be the one. So let me tell you, you're not. And hope to God that doesn't work. Oops, wait, I forgot I told Trinity you could fall in love with the one. Fuck. Oh, well, never mind. I guess we'll make this work.
But to take all these things and to know that at the end of the day, it's true love that matters, Eddie.
Right.
Like true love.
So I just made a comment about we see all the character growth of how Neo's not flipping people off and saying, fuck you, give me a phone call. You're not my real dad. You can't tell me what I want. And yet, when the architect's like, you have two choices. Go after your girlfriend and literally watch everyone die, or wait, let me finish telling you the other choice. Where are you going? And so Neo is more composed and tactical, but he is still a 21-year-old man going, you can't tell me what to do. So like the original Anderson is still in there. So from a character perspective, it's actually pretty interesting. Where Neo ends and Anderson begins is back to being muddier than it was at the end of the first movie, at the beginning of this movie. Like we're actually seeing there's complexity and nuance, and he is not as perfect as he wants himself to believe. Right.
Yeah.
But boy, howdy, the stuff around that to get him there is just gibberish. Not even prisoner fun gibberish, right? Like pulling a guy's mask off as like an ape underneath. No, it's just a white guy in a suit telling me a bunch of shit.
We both love the White Guardian, but I'm not going to talk about that. I want to know what year it really is in the film. Because in the first film, we had Morpheus telling us it's like, I think, what, 21, 22 something?
Right.
The timeline now isn't working for me because I've detracted so much from the movie. I'm analyzing everything. And I'm thinking if there have been like 6 ones, and assuming like Zion starts with 23, 24 people. And the current version of it, I think, was like 250,000 people. Some of which would be freed.
Yeah.
Some of which would be natural births. The time doesn't sync up for 6 generations because we know that Tank and his brother were naturally born people, and they were in their 30s or 40s. So that would assume that each iteration of Zion is at least 50 years minimum, and it can't be that. It's got to be more than that. And 6 generations.
I will say that Morpheus heavily implied in the first movie that much of humanity was cloned. And they were given roles within the Matrix to basically retroactively give them a reality and a life.
I'm factoring that in. That's why I said, but we know that Tank and his brother are natural born people. They were So then they have to have parents. We're going to assume base minimum amount of time, and there's no way this would work, 100 years per thing. Because even if you drop it to 50, if there's 6 iterations, that's 300 years, 1999. Then we're like 24, 25. The timeline does not work, and it's like bothering me a lot. And I keep thinking, how long much time is going by? Like, how many citizens are Zion? Reproductive rates.
There are two possible answers, neither of which actually work as well as I'd hoped. One is Tank and Dozer came from the original 24-25 survivors. And so the natural born reproduction is an outgrowth of just that small handful of survivors, but everybody else is cloned. So we're looking at closer to like 30-ish years per cycle, but still the math doesn't add up, right? Still a problem there. Yep. The other option is the architect is lying. And that the choice he's giving him is completely false, and that Zion's can be destroyed either way. Maybe there have been 6 iterations. Probably have been more than one iteration just because Merovingian references them. But that doesn't mean that they are tied to each one of the destruction of Zion. He could be lying about that piece. Like, it's the first time they've actually made it to Zion, and he's just making it seem like, oh, it's inevitable because we've always made this choice, when secretly this choice never made before. But then that makes what the Oracle said even less sense, right?
But that can't work because even in Zion, they're using machines and everything else, and there's no way 23 random people could have built Zion without the help of machines to get to do it. So there has to be multiple iterations of them.
Well, no, that's my point, is that Zion was created 50 some years ago. Zion's never been wiped out until this threat happening now. And there's been 6 iterations of Matrix while Zion's been around. But again, that doesn't work because the Oracle doesn't make sense, because the Oracle would have known there are multiple iterations, and also the people in the Matrix would have known there are multiple iterations.
And I'm saying the piece for Zion doesn't work because Zion is a vast city built in underground networks, and there is no way that level of infrastructure could have been built within a 50-year window by 23 people without machines.
I'm saying the 23 people thing is a straight up lie.
Okay.
Right? I'm saying that never happened. I'm saying the architects, they've never wiped out Zion. Zion, humanity slowly woke up over the course of all 6 of these and slowly built Zion. There was never an initial destruction of Zion. That's what I'm saying, right? But regardless, none of this makes sense.
No, because there's no way that humans waking up in a tube could reach Zion because they don't know about Zion. So, like, a whole bunch of issues right now. It's like exploding everywhere.
Again, by trying to explain things, in the original Matrix, they would occasionally try to explain things, but they made things muddier. And although whether that was by craft or by accident is up in the air, at the end of the day, it was compelling because the muddiness was exactly right. It left enough interest that we could fill in the gaps in an interesting and fun way. This, by over-explaining everything, invites questions you don't want to invite.
Yeah.
Because it's like, now that you've explained how the Matrix works and retconned a bunch of stuff, this is the final big retcon of the movie. Well, not the final one, but like one of the last ones. Now I'm going, but wait a minute. None of this makes sense. Because, like, also again, like, we don't know anything about the previous ones. For all we know, the third movie answers this question, but I'm gonna suspect they don't. I gotta remember that happening. But certainly, I remember vividly this scene, watching it in the theaters, when I was angry at this movie in the theater at this point in time. Because this scene pissed me off.
All right, I think we can go on. I think we're done with that.
Okay. So, other stuff happens. Neo's vision of Trinity comes true as she is shot by Agent Thompson while falling off the building. Before she hits the ground, Neo arrives to catches her. He then removes the bullet from her chest and restarts her heart because he's the one. They return to the real world where Sentinels attack them. The Nebuchadnezzar is destroyed, but the crew escapes. As the Sentinels catch up to them, Neo realizes he can sense the machines in the real world and telepathically destroys them, but falls into a coma. The crew are picked up by another ship, the Hammer. The Hammer's captain reveals that the machines wiped out other ships defending Zion after someone prematurely activated an EMP. Only one survivor was found, the Smith-possessed Bane, who lies beside Neo in the medical bay, also unconscious. In a post-credit sequence, we see a preview of the Matrix Revolutions and the words "to be continued." Blah 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 blah. Before we dive into this, interesting bit of very minor trivia I noticed. The original wiki write-up for this calls the ship that rescues them the Mjolnir, not the Hammer. I was like, this must be an error. Turns out in the theatrical release, it was called the Mjolnir. Then Marvel said, and they re-recorded that scene for home release.
I can see that. Nice. Because they wouldn't want a whole bunch of people saying that they were saved by Hammer Time.
But that's what happened. They got saved by Hammer. The Hammer.
I think MC Hammer should sue them.
Anyway. All right. So
something I've actively avoided up to this point, but I want to bring it up now because we get Neo leaving the Architect, flying across the city at superhuman speeds, like a shit ton of cars pull behind him. Kind of how he flew early in the movie, a shit ton of cars pull behind him. Even if we go back to the first Matrix where they're killing people left and right. What is the morality of that, Eddie, given the fact that these are people who are trapped in tubes, and if these versions of them die, which they have, those innocent people in those cars Neo pulling behind them are dead. They're dead in tubes now. What's the morality revolving around all of that, which I've avoided till this point in time?
Well, that's one of the things that I want the movies to dig into more, but they're increasingly uninterested in doing, is that Anderson is a very young man, right? It's very clear by the way he is, and a little bit we see of him pre-Matrix in the first movie, is that he's early 20s. I'd say 21 kind of colloquially, but like he's in his early 20s. So he's young, dumb, full of cum, right? He's an idiot. And when he finds out that he's basically a literal superhero in a video game, he treats it in this movie a lot like he's playing a video game. And the morality that comes with that. The movie is uninterested in going, but that's fucked up. You know that, right? And gives him a huge pass because everyone goes, well, he's the savior, so we have to accept this. Which leads me to the point way back when we first started this, right? Locke at the end of this stuff is going, yeah, Zion's fucked because I told you guys not to leave and you all went after him, and now look where we are. And I'm at the end of the movie going, wow, Locke was right. And Neo is not someone we should be putting our cards on because he's dangerous.
I am specifically asking about the people who are still trapped in the Matrix, don't know they're
Matrix, they're fucked.
Who they're killing left and right by these great displays of power.
Right. I mean, I suspect the argument they're going to make is that most of them are possessed by agents at the time and therefore already dead. But that sounds a whole lot like justification.
I'm not talking about them. I'm specifically referencing this scene where Neo flies across the city at Mach speed, pulling hundreds of cars behind him. There aren't agents in those cars. They're like moms and dads driving their kids to and fro. They're just normal people.
We don't know if there are people in there or not, right?
I will give you 10% have people in them. 90% are empty.
Right. Like I said, like I'm generally agreeing with you in the sense that this movie has a chance to go, Neo is dangerous, and all the signposts are pointing, because again, like he was given, let's for the moment go back and assume that what the architect said was true. You could save 25 people or nobody. Right? Or right, let me rephrase that. You can say 25 people or one person. And Doctor Who loves to play with the it's not a numbers game, morality, you know, and even Star Trek does the needs the many or needs the one. That's not always the true thing, blah, blah. And I get all of that. Neo doesn't examine any of that. It is literally just my penis says go after her. You know? And so all of the signs point to these words didn't exist in 2003, but toxic masculinity. You know, Neo is toxically masculine, and that is a problem. And it's a bigger problem because Morpheus may in fact be a crazy zealot who's put all of his chips behind dude bro. The only woman with half a brain is in love with him, so she's not going to be any help. And the insanely charismatic Morpheus is getting other people to go along with his ideology. And it's like, yeah, no, this guy's fine. He'll save us all. And people like Locke are going, what are you actually doing? He is murdering people. He is listening to the architect of the Matrix. What is happening? Am I crazy? Why can't we just stay here and defend us from the actual literal aliens who are trying to kill us?
Yeah. I think even wrap up is where we're at, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I mean, yes, because I mean, we could talk about the fact that by Neo saving Trinity, this whole movie's functionally a flashback, but I'm not even going to go there anymore. Yeah, kind of a weird thing because my argument at the beginning of this is like going, yes, this is a cliffhanger, but I think a fair chunk of this movie is self-contained. I think we can analyze this as a single movie. I don't think we need to talk about the second movie to. I think we'll talk about the third movie, and that will inform our opinions of this movie. Right? I agree. I think it'll happen, but I think we can still talk about this as a unit because a large percentage of the plots introduced in the movie are in some way resolved. Really, the only thing that's lingering at this point is the attack on Zion.
And Neo.
Is that fair? Do you think? Well,
and
okay.
Neo.
But the dream is resolved. Morpheus's love affair is resolved. Niobe is now officially with him because that needed to happen. What the Matrix is, and well, okay, I take back. Actually, no, because also Agent Smith is not resolved. That's still an ongoing thing. So maybe not enough of this movie is resolved. Actually, we can look at it objectively. That's an interesting point. Maybe there's too much left over.
I would say that we can look at it objectively because the primary mission for Neo in this film was to save Trinity, and Neo saved Trinity in the movie because it's a love story.
Okay. Sure. No, you've said it several times, and I'm increasingly running out of ways to argue against that. It's very clear that's what the movie wants this to be.
Yeah.
The power of love is a curious thing.
Because Eddie, it's even in the first movie, it's Trinity's love that brought Neo back to life at the end of that.
Right.
And it's now Neo's love of Trinity that brought her back to life.
That brings her back to life. Yeah. No, okay, yeah, that pairs well. Okay, so I want to like this movie. I think is where I'm at. Right. I enjoyed the process of watching it, although there are certain parts where I was like, yes, I get it, blah, 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 blah. Let's move on. Certainly the architect scene very much wanted to be the Morpheus Smith scene and just utterly fails on every level. But I think it's indicative of the whole movie, right? Like chunks of this movie push the Matrix forward, but almost all of it is in the visuals. The car chase scene, the fight with Seraph, the fights with the mini Smiths, those push our concept of the Matrix forward, but it's all just purely visual, right? From a plot perspective, do we know anything more about these characters than we did before? Not really. Does at the end of the first movie, the aliens are trying to attack Zion and Neo's going to stop them. At the end of the second movie, the aliens are about to attack Zion and Neo's going to stop them. So like that hasn't really changed.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're left to what I do remember not liking about the third movie is that Neo is now, up till now, he's been the savior of the one, but it's all been contained within the Matrix. And outside of that, he's been a guy. And that's what was interesting and something that the movie starts to play with a little bit is like, what is the dichotomy of being the savior in one world and just a human being in another world? But now, nope, that's not true. He also has powers in this world too. So there's a lot of why did this movie need to exist that I'm struggling with.
It needs to exist because Hollywood wanted more money. But
Right. That is a thread that we'll get back to.
creatively, mm, unlike you, I don't want to like the movie. I don't have any inclination to really like the movie. Um, there are beats that I think work really well. Some of them, which I think we touched on during the course of the episode. But on the whole, it's I don't see why it exists other than the studio wants money. I understand
Right.
why the Wachowskis would have wanted to lead their vision if the studio wants them to make money to make a thing. And I
Right.
understand why they took a hard pivot from what they did with the first Matrix, because there's no way you can recapture that. We've already established hands down.
Yeah.
So you need to try to build on it, but also shift your entire narrative. So if the studio wants more movies, you can make more Matrix stuff as it goes on.
Right.
And it was a big swing what they did.
Mm-hmm.
And it, as you said, is the highest grossing movie, made a whole bunch of money. But I don't think it was a successful swing. And I think part of it comes down to they try to introduce too much too quickly. Like I think it could have been down scoped a bit.
Yeah, true. Like, honestly, much as I love the highway scene, you could have cut everything from the Merovingian to the death of the Keymaker, and the plot doesn't change hardly at all, right? You just go right from, we need to defeat these creatures, so let's go to these places and blow them up. You know? Uh, and I could, but to your point, like, contrary to that, they need to introduce concepts that they can build non-Neo related movies off of. And now we have the Star Wars problem, which is all of those threads have to exist in a world where Neo and Trinity and Morpheus exist and are doing things.
Yeah.
And the Star Wars expanded universe is fascinating, but it took decades before any stories in that space started to remotely work. And a lot of the early Star Wars stuff, tie-in stuff, if you look at it, like it struggles to work around the big narrative thread of fucking Luke Skywalker. And this is the same problem, right? It's like, I could see the argument of, we're going to introduce all these captains and Niobe and all these stuff, and so they can have cool side captain adventures. It's like, yeah, but none of that matters compared to what's going on with Neo.
And maybe we'd have a different opinion if we played the video game, because I'm sure in the video game
Sure.
they get stuff and they're NPCs that you meet and you might go on missions with them. But from a viewing of the movie perspective, that doesn't translate well. And part of that is because when I say too big in scope, I'm not even talking about the action beats. I'm saying they've introduced too many characters in a film, not giving them enough space to breathe. Like we've mentioned Niobe, I think 3 times in passing. And if they'd cut down the people, like half of the people, they could have had more substantial roles, so we'd feel more emotional beats. So like when Niobe shows up to save Morpheus falling off the thing, we should be like, yeah, Niobe's here, instead of, why is Morpheus getting knocked off the thing? Because we don't care about Niobe, we care about Morpheus.
Right. Yeah, I could totally see stuff like, what if you combines Niobe and Locke's roles, right? And so she's Morpheus's ex-girlfriend that wants to love him, but also has to be in charge of security things and is pissed off at his nonsense, right? That would be interesting, because then she would be oscillating between those two roles in a way that would be fascinating. She's the lead, she's the admiral of the fleet. So she's a captain, but she also is the admiral of the whole fleet. And so like, she's like, you can't go. And then the count's like, yeah, you can go. And she's like, God damn it. And now I have to go after him to save him because you let him go. Who's going to defend the city? Like, all of that would have been interesting. But you're right. There's so much stuff happening because the cast explodes in the first half hour of this movie. It's just so many new characters. And it doesn't help that, like I said, Tank and Dozer's are dead. Tank's replaced by Link. And we barely mentioned Link, which tells you everything you need to know about Link, right? He's just the pilot. And the worst part is that we even get like some retreads of plot beats from the first movie. Agent Smith is super powerful and continues to grow in power. Someone betrays the rebellion and it causes problems. It's like we've seen some of this stuff before. Again, like we ended the same place we ended the first movie at. So yeah, the whole thing smacks of the studio made us do this, which I know from reading interviews is a large reason why this movie exists.
Yeah. And I like we may be talking about that for the next two movies.
Mm-hmm.
My last final thing is it either needed to be more condensed, so you cut it down, or it needed to have a fourth movie that came out in 2004, and you could have spread this out over four movies to like
Right.
give each beat time to breathe, and then like the architect scene could have been at the end of the third movie that was like a big climactic cliffhanger, and you just hanging on that because you know you have a fourth movie coming out that resolves Zion and everything else. And this movie is a transitional movie where you can still have Neo do cool stuff. You can also rescope Neo how you want him to be, and let us have time to breathe with characters.
Honestly, I could see a version of this movie where let's take all the Zion stuff out for the moment, right? And just be like you get a little bit of Zion stuff just to kind of you have a mission and then all the Matrix stuff more or less happens, right? And then at the end of the movie, Architect does stuff, Neo saves Trinity, and then it's like, oh shit, Zion's being attacked. And then the second movie in your proposed three movies is a mix. It's much more we're bouncing back and forth between the two because we're trying to save Zion, but we have to go into the Matrix to do some things and get resources and whatnot. And then people change their minds and the factions start to develop in Zion because they're angry about the attack and blah blah blah. And it's like what were implicit factions now become more explicit and more angry at each other. And then the third movie is almost entirely in the real world with Zion, where all that comes to a head. We only touched the Matrix a little bit. Smith has left the Matrix, and so now he's doing his shenanigans completely in the real world now. So we still have the ongoing threat of Smith,
And
but
Neo's
he's
already got superpowers in the real world, so Neo still gets to use his
right,
powers. So it's
right,
either
exactly.
less or
So
more.
right, so you can still have the constant. It's always Neo and Smith, but then it starts in the Matrix. It starts to bleed into the real world and ends in the real world. But here, it's just so much so fast. Again, I like the idea of in movie three, Neo and Smith are going to fight in the real world. So like I think we're all going in the same direction on that front, but it's like I said, it's too much to get there. It's all muddied in and a bunch of things happen to characters we don't care about.
Um, so yeah, to that extent. If people are curious what we're gonna do next time, remark enough, we're gonna talk about Matrix Revolutions.
What? Who could have guessed that? A whole whopping 6 months later. I think short of the TV shows, I think this is the fastest back-to-back media we've done in terms of their release times.
I think so too. Eddie, people want to talk to you about this great movie since you love it so much. Where can they do that?
You can find me in the Matrix. I'll be around my avatar. I'll be in Second Life doing cool stuff. No. You can find me on pugsteady.com. That's not only my website, but also where you can find me on Blue Sky. Or you can come to Darker Hue and I will continue to be mad about this movie. You're probably mad about the next two movies too. How about you?
If you're looking for me, you can find me on Blue Sky at darker_hue. You come in the Discord, where if you want, I'll talk to you about this movie, or I'll talk to you about our Lord of the Rings run that we need to do, or maybe the Blade movie. Who knows? Something.
Like how this movie still wants to be played at some point. All right. With that, we will talk about The Matrix 2 Part 2 next week.
Shitty.